Hey, welcome to the session. Today we're going to be looking at Charlie Puth's Attention and how to recreate that in Logic Pro X. Attention is produced really well, very catchy, and it's got an amazing bass line. Let's check it out. So this is the project for Attention and it's at 110 BPM. These are the cold vocals. So let's have a listen to the track.
Cause you knew that I'd be at one. Oh, I know that dress is karma, what you expect, but you're not coming home with me tonight. You just want attention. You've been running around, throwing that dirt all on my name. Cause you knew that I'd call you up. Yeah, you just want attention. I know from the start, you're just making sure I'm gonna get it for you. Oh.
So that is the track, and yeah, let's get to it. Let me just expand this a little bit. All right, so let's start with the guitars, which are two layers of guitars. These are just MIDI guitars, which is the same as what's on the real record, because the real record doesn't use live guitars, it uses MIDI guitars. And I picked factory guitars, electric guitar muted notes, because it's basically a muted guitar. Now you can tell that this is on the left side and this one's on the right side. Essentially they're playing the same notes, and let's remove all the processing and hear how this one sounds. Now it's interesting because there are more processing. These two tracks are being sent to bus 10, and bus 10 has an EQ, compressor, and space design, so I'm going to get rid of those as well. So without all the amps and stuff, it's going to sound like this. And both of them together. Now, if you're going to use the exact same sound, and in this case we're using the exact same sound, electric guitar muted notes, it's going to be quite useless to pan them left and right, because what you're going to get is the same sort of like some track to mono. There's no width to it at all. So how are we going to get width by still panning this one right and this one left? Well, what we can do is add an amp. Now in this case I used a Mean Machine Crunch, so it's here, probably tweaked it a little bit, and you get this. And here's a channel EQ. I got rid of some pretty annoying frequencies. Without a bit more muted and more mellow now, without the peak frequencies that were bothering me. So sometimes I hear some resonant frequencies and I just really zoom in and cut them out. And in this case, I took a bit of low end out, I took a bit of high end out as well, I shelved them. Now you have a different left channel and a different right channel because they've been processed differently. So there's another EQ here, and this one is getting rid of another little point here and just getting rid of more low end. So you can stack EQs, there's no real issue about it. And this one is the same, getting rid of some weird frequencies. And the amp is a different amp. It's a Brawny Combo Crunch. So when you have similar sounds but not the same responses and they pan left and right, you get a wide response. And that's pretty cool, you know, it starts getting wider. And then we send it to a bus and then we EQ those two sounds together. And we compress them. And we compress them because I'm using Fat Live drums. just to get that, that fat compression, and also to get those sounds to sort of stick together a little bit. More like a singular sound. And of course there's a reverb. I didn't send it. I just put it as an insert in the bus. And I use a small space gated reverb, short drum reverb. So it's about minus 16 dB wet. Here's how it sounds. Because it sounds like a bigger space, but it sort of like gets pulled back. So that's what you get with a gated reverb. Yep, here we go. So, and it sounds nice. And that's the intro sound. And on top of that, I know there's sort of like a turntable sound. Sort of like just vinyl noise, actually. Yep. And it's really, really low. You can find it and turntable. Yeah, turntable needle drop. Yep. I got rid of start a little bit. Needed to extend it a little bit and then fade it out. So that's just, yeah, just that. And then you got a little chime happening here, just right before the soft synths come in. Now the chime is a really straightforward one. You can find it in orchestral percussion orchestral kit. It sounds just like this. Old school chimes, yeah, sounds good. Now, and then let's go to the interesting bits, which is the synths section. Now we have this pattern here, and it's like this. So let's listen to this synth. Nice and warm, right? So it's an Alchemy. It's called Dusty Record Synth. It's a sort of jazz and keys. And yeah, and in Alchemy, it's just right on vinyl EP. So standard. Sounds really nice and warm. I really like this sound. And then we paired it with a more classic synth sound, which is from the ES2 Analog Horns, which you can find under, if I'm not mistaken, brass. Yep, Analog Horns. There you go. Sounds like that. Just a bit of tweaking, and they're playing the same thing. You can see that the names are the same, so I just copied this over. Ooh, nice and warm. And what I did with the extra bottom end, for some extra bottom end, I took an Alchemy bass and a subby bass, a dark heavy bass, under dark and snappy. So it sounds like this. It's a really low end, and when you put it together, and that's that part over here. And that's pretty much for that additional section. And now we have a little riser, which goes like this. Really straight up riser that you can find in electro riser. You got different ones over here, different risers. You search for riser. In this case, we use this one. Just pulled it into an audio track. And then we just cut it off at the right point. Now, for the bass, which is one of my favorite lines in this song. Yep, let's have a look. See, this is the bass pattern. And it sounds like this. So you can see that, okay, this one is a sculpture plugin. And I use muted bass picked. Here we go. And it's got a small low end EQ taking off some of the low end. So this one's sort of covering the high ends of the bass. That picky sound. And then this one covers a bit more bottom end. So it's under bass, electric bass, ballad, electric bass. And I put them together. Did the same track, copied over. So they kind of doubled up, but and you don't really hear it as a doubling of a bass. It's just like a nice fat little bass, so I thought that was fine. And then there is a kick, really straightforward kick. Under kicks, single drums, drums and percussion, kicks, electronic kicks, C18, and it's just playing a straight up 4 to the floor. Kind of works with the bass. Oh, that's funky. And then we're adding some snaps, and that's snaps from drums and percussion, single instruments, snaps. Really straightforward snaps. They get rid of this. They look like that, sound like that. No reverb, nothing, really dry. Yeah, very straightforward, no reverb, nothing. And then we are going to sort of like the big parts. Now, let's just play that bit. So it's kind of like a muted strat kind of sound. I use Sculpture for this, and there's a funky lick Stratocaster you can find under plucked instruments, I think. Yep, there we go. A funky lick Stratocaster, and it's got that guitar sound. I sent it through an amp just to give it a bit more hairiness. This is an A-list clean, which is the very first one. It's a nice little tweed kind of sound. And then I put it through a reverb, which is under big rooms, big room reverb. Yeah, there we go. And it sounds like that. Without the amp, it's gonna sound like this. With the amp, so much better. So it sounds kind of like a real guitar. You can tell it's not, but within the mix, it kind of works. And then we have another kick here. It's kind of like when the beat really starts going. It's under drums and percussion, single drums, kicks, electronic kicks, and it's 59. So you can, audition kicks like this and see what you come up with, whether you like it. Really straightforward. And in the next one is more percussion, and this one is an electronic snare. Now I picked the same thing under drums and percussion, single drums, snares, electronic snares. This is number 17, and D1 means it's the key that you want to play it at, so it's D1 pitch, if you can see that. So and also I put an enveloper. I got rid of the tail, so it's tighter. Let's have a listen again. And if I take out the enveloper, there's just more decay. This one has less decay and a bit more attack as well, just a wee bit. So yeah, so working together, they sound like that. With the bass, it sounds pretty good to me. And then we have a clap, and the clap comes from drums and percussion, performance instruments, claps and snaps performance. Here's how it sounds. Really straightforward, nice and organic, and I have a compressor on it. Also Fat Live drums. It gives it a bit more fatness. That kind of works. And then there's a bit more percussion as well. So in the place of sort of like a hat, we use our good old orchestral kit and use a little shaker type thing. So it's in the place of a hat because the kicks and the snares work with this to sort of form a drum kit. And then we have one more thing, which is kind of like a snare. And this one comes from Drums and Percussion Acoustic Drum Kits, 70s kit. And it's basically just a nice old school kind of snare sound. And here's everything together. Nice and fat. And with all the bass and all. Alright, it's got a bit of that retro sound going for it, which is kind of the direction for this track. And it kind of repeats. You can see that it repeats at the different chorus sections and the verse sections, and the bass line repeats as well. But at this section,
I know that stress is coming, feel regret.
we introduce some new guitars, and they sound like that. So you can see that they're the same track again, copied over. I mean, the same MIDI track, MIDI region, I mean, and just pan left and right. Now, this one is under guitars, electric guitars, clean electric guitar. And this one is twangy electric. So there are two different ones. We send them to bus 2. Which has a Space Designer Prince Hall 1. Is really nice and big. So it's a large space, 3.9 seconds Prince Hall 1. This one's also sent to that. And now you can see this one's panned to the right, the other one panned to the left, and here. Nice and ambient. And then there are more guitars. And you can see this EQ is pretty crazy on this one. Let's listen to this too. So these are meant to substitute for strum guitars. They're panned to the right and left as well. So it's still the same. One's a clean electric guitar, one's a twangy electric. And I EQ'd it like crazy to bring out more of the high end. When you have strumming, it's always better to have a bit more of the rhythmic high end bits than sort of like the low end bits. So I normally EQ that out. And that's an ARP going on here to give that rhythm. I programmed this in myself, and this is where the chords are happening, and this is where the singular notes are happening. So, and when you put them together, they sound pretty okay. With the drums and the bass. Yeah, and then you have your guitars as well. And your synths. And that's kind of the structure. You can see that it's copied across the entire song, and we're just dropping bits out, putting bits in. Except for the final chorus. And the final chorus, we have an extra little, just to give it that oomph, is this synth over here. It's a brass synth. So it's a bright saw brass that you can see here. And it looks like this. Nice and majestic, really, if you put it together with the guitars. It really brings out that vibe, that sort of like 80s, sort of like clubby vibe. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, and that's it for this track. I hope you learned something useful today, like how to get really wide sounding instruments by processing left and right separately. If you like, you can download the project at the link below, and if you like these videos, please subscribe for more. See ya.